And here we go with songs from Carl Sandburg's American Songbag. Carl Sandburg was one of the United States' best known poets. He was certainly one of the best and best known poets that Illinois produced, along with, in my opinion, Gwendolyn Brooks and Gil Scott Heron, who was born in Illinois. Sandburg was often called the poet of the people. His free verse poetry celebrated the masses of people in the United States, their work, their experiences, their lives, and their hardships. And he won 3 Pulitzer Prizes, 2 for poetry, 1 for his biography of Abraham Lincoln. Sandburg was born in 1878 in Galesburg, Illinois, and he died in 1967 on his farm in North Carolina. His and his wife, Lillian Steichen, who was the sister of photographer Edward Steichen, their ashes are buried under a rock at Sandburg's family home in Galesburg, Illinois. One of the things that Sandburg really loved was performing for people. He loved interacting with audiences, and before he established himself as a poet, he made a big chunk of his income by traveling around and for fees giving inspirational speeches. He traveled mainly around the Midwest. He gave speeches on the poet Walt Whitman. He also gave speeches on Eugene V. Debs, the great trade union organizer, socialist organizer, orator, campaigner. Debs was a real hero of Sandburg's, and they became quite close friends later in life. And after he established himself as a writer, Sandburg almost immediately began doing poetry readings. And from the start, he would take a guitar up on stage with him, and he would read a few poems, and then he would sing some songs accompanying himself on the guitar, and read a few more poems, play another song. That's the way he did his poetry readings. And that love of folk music, he loved folk songs because he felt they connected him with the masses of people. And that love of folk songs led him to compile and edit this book. He collected songs as he went around the country. He heard them, he collected them, he had friends send him songs. He had a few friends who were classical composers who wrote the arrangements and harmonies for the songs in the book. They're actually a lot more complex than most folk singers would do. And so the book is, in fact, those arrangements and harmonies that the composers wrote from the melodies that either Sandburg had heard or learned, or that that his friends hummed to him or sent to him in written notation. So the book is those arrangements and Sandburg's introductions to the songs. He collected about 330 songs, whittled them down to 255. He told his friend, the poet Vachel Lindsay, in a letter that the project was much more difficult and much more time-consuming than he had imagined. He edited the songs. He wrote the introduction to the book, wrote an introduction for each song, and the book was published in 1927 by Harcourt Brace Jovanovich. It's still actually a pretty widely used reference by people interested in the folk music of the United States and North America. When Sandburg was 18, he left home and rode the rails for about a year. He would stop and do various jobs. And then many years later, in 1908, he worked for about 6 months as an organizer for the presidential campaign of Eugene Debs as the candidate of the Socialist Party of America. And in that capacity, Sandburg traveled the boxcars, the highways, the byways, again, mainly in the Midwest. And in all those sojourns, those travels, he heard and learned this song, which was written by Mac McClintock, who was a member of the IWW, the Industrial Workers of the World, the Wobblies, and it was one of Sandburg's favorite songs. Well, why don't you work like other men do? How the hell can I work when there's no work to do? Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revive us again. Well, I love my boss and my boss loves me, and that's the reason I'm so hungry. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revive us again. Well, springtime has come and I'm just out of jail, without any money, without any bail. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revive us again. Well, I went to a house and I knocked on the door. A lady came out, says, you've been here before. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revive us again. I went to a house and I asked for some bread. A lady came out, says, the baker is dead. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revive us again. So why don't you work like other men do? How the hell can I work when there's no work to do? Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a handout to revive us again. The book, by the way, all these songs that I'm doing this afternoon, all of them are in the American Songbag, Sandburg's American Songbag. Many of them were published there for the first time. The book is divided in 22, I think, sections. There are work songs, prison songs, farm songs, sailors songs, cowboy songs, blues. These next two songs are songs that are in different sections in the book, but both come from the same song, which was a Scottish ballad that dates back to the mid-1700s, called The Unfortunate Rake. The Unfortunate Rake is a song about an unfortunate rake who died of syphilis as a young man. The traditional first verse of The Unfortunate Rake goes something like, as I was a-walking down by St. James Hospital, as I was a-walking down by there one day, what should I spy but one of my comrades all wrapped up in flannel, though warm was the day. The first of these Unfortunate Rake songs is a song that's still a widely sung cowboy song. As I walked out in the streets of Laredo, as I walked out in Laredo one day, I spied a young cowboy all wrapped in white linen, all wrapped in white linen, though cold was the day. I see by your outfit that you are a cowboy. These words he did say as I boldly stepped by. Come sit down beside me and hear my sad story, for I'm shot in the breast and I know I must die. 'Twas once in the saddle I used to go dashing, once in the saddle I used to go gay. 'Twas first to the drinking and then the card playing. Got shot in the breast and I'm dying today. Get 6 jolly cowboys to carry my coffin, 6 pretty girls to carry my pall. Put rope with bunches of roses all over my coffin, put roses to deaden the clods as they fall. Beat the drum slowly and bang the fife lowly, play the dead march as you carry me along. Take me to the green valley and lay the sod o'er me, for I'm a young cowboy and I know I've done wrong. We beat the drum slowly and we bang the fife lowly. We beat the drum slowly and we played the fife lowly, and bitterly wept as we bore him along. For we all loved our comrade, so brave, young, and handsome. We all loved our comrade, although he'd done wrong. As I walked out in the streets of Laredo, as I walked out in Laredo one day, I spied a young cowboy all wrapped in white linen, all wrapped in white linen, and cold as the clay. The next song that is derives directly from The Unfortunate Rake is a song that appears in Sandburg's book in the Blues, Mellows, Ballets section. And it's still a widely sung song in the blues and jazz genres. It's in the Sandburg's book under the title of Those Gamblers' Blues. It's generally known as the St. James Infirmary Blues. It was down at old Joe's barroom on the corner by the square. The drinks were served as usual, the usual crowd was there. On my left stood old Joe McKennedy, his eyes bloodshot and red. He gazed at the crowd around him, and these were the words he said. I went down to St. James Infirmary to see my woman there. She was laying on a low white table, so pale, so cold, so fair. I went up to see the doctor. She's mighty low, he said. I went back to see my woman. Great God, she's laying there dead. Let her go, God bless her, wherever she may be. There'll never be another like her, there'll never be another for me. And when I die, just bury me in a box back coat and hat. Put a $20 gold piece on my watch chain, so they'll know I died standing pat. Get 6 crap shooters as pallbearers. Let a chorus girl sing me a song. Put a jazz band on my hearse to raise hell as we go along. And now you've heard my story, I'll take another shot of booze. And if anybody happens to ask you, I've got those gambler's blues. Now you've heard my story, I'll take another shot of booze. And if anybody happens to ask you, I've got those St. James Infirmary blues. There's only one tune that appears in the book as just a tune without words. And this is what Sandburg says in his introduction to that tune. Of all the country fiddler's tunes I have heard, the old-timer chicken reel is the favorite that keeps best. Other favorites hold their charm, yet the trickiest of all is chicken reel. Cunning of musical design, elusive and unexpected in its transitions, it is like a poem that parodies itself, like a cat that walks alone, like a woman who forgets that she has forgotten, like three thistle sifters with thimbles sifting softly through three sieves. Its theme is never trouble trouble till trouble troubles you. Well, I don't think that any fiddle tune, or especially the chicken reel, has ever been written about like that before or since. Sandburg was giving himself a break, I think. He wanted to chuckle. This was a hard job, as he said. And also, I think he wanted to get away with some writing that he knew he could never get away with in any other context. So I'm going to play Chicken Reel for you now, and you can see whether you think it deserves that introduction. And I'm going to follow it up with another tune. This tune appears with words in the book. I'm just going to play the melody, the tune, and this is what Sandburg says about that. This is the classical American rural tune. It is as American as Johnny Appleseed and corn on the cob. Well, that's what many people think, but actually this tune is most likely an Irish reel that came to this continent in the mid-1700s. It's been in the collections. It's in most collections of traditional Irish music. I'm not going to tell you its name because some of you will know it, I think. And so here's the chicken reel and tune X. was Turkey in the Straw, Tunics. The next three songs that I'll do are all songs that, again, were published, as all these are, were in Sandburg's 1927 American Songbag. These three songs were all revived in one way or another during the folk revival of the 1950s and 1960s. The first song is a song that Sandburg got from his friend John T. McCutcheon. No relation, I don't think, to the modern day current John McCutcheon, who's a great hammer dulcimer player, banjo player, fiddler, guitar player, singer, songwriter. This John McCutcheon was a Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune, and he and his wife had a vacation home in the Bahamas where they often heard this song sung. The song is about a ship, a boat really, I guess, that sank in the harbor off Nassau. And McCutcheon sent the song to Sandburg. Sandburg published the song in the American Songbag. And somehow Brian Wilson came across it. I don't know whether he was perusing the Songbag or came across it in some other way. And the Beach Boys recorded it and had a real big hit with it in 1966, I think. And then in 1968, the Kingston Trio had a big hit with it. Come on the Sloop John B, my grandfather and me, round Nassau town we did roam, drinking all night, got into a fight, I feel so break up, I wanna go home, so hoist up the John B sails, see how the mainsail sets, send for the captain ashore, let me go home, let me go home, let me go home, I feel so break up, I wanna go home. The first mate he got drunk, broke up the people's trunk, constable had to come, take him away. Sheriff John Stone, please leave me alone. I feel so break up, I wanna go home. So hoist up the John B sails, see how the mainsail sets, send for the captain ashore, let me go home. Let me go home. Let me go home, I feel so break up, I wanna go home. Poor cook, he got fits, throw away all of the grits, and he'd take and eat up all of my corn. I want to go home, let me go home. This is the worst trip I've ever been on. So hoist up the John B sails, see how the mainsail sets, send for the captain ashore, let me go home, let me go home, let me go home, I feel so break up, I wanna go home.
hoist up the John B sails, see how the mainsail sets, send for the captain ashore, let me go home, let me go home, let me go home. I feel so break up, I wanna go home. I feel so break up, I wanna go home.
This next song is a song also revived in the 60s in a very different way. This song was written in 1865 by Henry Clay Work, who was a prolific songwriter of the Civil War period. And it was a very popular song in the 1870s, 80s, 90s, and the several decades after the Civil War, especially in the South. And in 1924, two songwriters from the growing country music song industry took this song, kept the melody intact, but changed the lyrics entirely. Made it into the song The Wreck of the Old 97, which was recorded in 1924 by Vernon Dalhart, who was one of the early country stars. And in fact, The Wreck of the Old 97 was the first #1 country single, first million-selling country single. And then in 1949, this song from 1865 was reinvented, revived in a very different way. In 1949, there was a man named Walter J. O'Brien who was running for mayor of Boston. And he was running mainly on one plank in his platform, and that was to oppose the subway fare increase. The subway fare in Boston was going to go up, not just go up to get on the subway, but they were going to institute a fare to get off. You would have to pay to get off the subway and go through the turnstiles, and O'Brien opposed that. And a couple of folk singers, Jacqueline Steiner and Bess Lomax Hawes, who was the daughter of the sister of the great folk song collector Alan Lomax. They took this old song from 1865 and again kept the melody intact and changed the lyrics entirely. But this time, the new lyrics were very, very much in keeping with the lyrics of the original song. And they actually sang the song on the back of a pickup truck, an open bed truck, through loudspeakers as they went through Boston as part of O'Brien's campaign. Didn't do him any good. He got 1% of the vote. But the song became very, very popular, and in 1959, I think, the Kingston Trio had a very big hit with it. I'm going to sing several verses of the original song from 1865, and then I'll sing a verse from the rewritten song from 1949, and then the Kingston Trio had that hit with in 1959. On a summer's day when the waves were rippling with a quiet and a gentle breeze, a ship set forth with a cargo laden for a part across the sea. But did she ever return? No, she never returned, and her fate is still unlearned. And the last poor man set sail, commander on a ship that never returned. Said a feeble lad to his aging mother, I must cross that deep blue sea, for I hear of a land in that far-off country where there's health and strength for me. But did she ever return? No, she never returned, and her fate is still unlearned. And the last poor man set sail, commander on a ship that never returned. This feeble lad to his aging mother as he kissed his weeping wife, just one more purse of that golden treasure, it will last us
all through life. But did she ever return? No, she never returned, and her fate is still unlearned. And the last poor man set sail, commander on a ship that never returned. That will live in joy and peace forever and enjoy all I have learned. So they sent him off with a smile and a blessing and a ship that never returned. And did she ever return? No, she never returned, and her fate is still unlearned. And the last poor man set sail, commander on a ship that never returned. Let me tell you a story of a man named Charlie on that tragic and fateful day. He put 10 cents in his pocket, kissed his wife and family, went to ride on the NTA. But did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. He may ride forever beneath the streets of Boston, he's the man who never returned. And did she ever return? No, she never returned, and her fate is still unlearned. And the last poor man set sail, commander on a ship that never returned.
Well, that's an interesting history of that song, isn't it? The third of the songs that I'm going to do that were revived in the 1960s is a song that was sung by slaves as both a work song and a gospel song, and it was revived during the 1960s and sung in the civil rights movement and in the movement against the war in Vietnam.
Gotta lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna wear a starry crown down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna wear a starry crown down by the riverside. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gotta shake hands around the world down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna shake hands around the world down by the riverside. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more.
Well, Sandburg, of course, was a big admirer of Abraham Lincoln's. There's a section in the book called The Lincolns and the Hankses. And Hanks, of course, was Lincoln's mother's birth name. Nancy Hanks was her name. And this song is there. Here's another, what does that say? I can't read it. Let me see if I can read this little note here that came in. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to do this. Oh yeah, gonna bump elbows down by the elevator. Okay, that's kind of funny. The song during the 1840s, but before, after, and during the Civil War, the one of the very popular and inexpensive ways of family entertainment was to go to see live traveling music, and there were no jam productions with exorbitant, outrageous ticket prices then. It was actually pretty inexpensive to take a family to go see a live musical act. And from the 1840s to the 1870s or so, one of the most well-known and most popular traveling musical acts was the Hutchinson family singers from New Hampshire. And they were very active. For those of you who are familiar with the Weavers, they were sort of the Weavers of their day. They were very active in social and political movements. They were active in the temperance movement, in the women's suffrage movement, in the abolitionist movement, in both Lincoln campaigns. Here's a song that they wrote for the 1860 Lincoln presidential campaign, and then with some verses that they added for the 1864 campaign. The song is set to the old tune of the old song, Rosin the Bow. There's a line in the chorus that says, "The pride of the suckers so lucky." People who lived in Illinois were called suckers, most likely because there was a lead mine in Galena in the northwest corner of the state, and the miners mostly lived in southern Illinois and in Missouri, and they would come up the Mississippi River in the spring to work in the mine, and then they go back downriver in the fall to spend the winter at home. And that travel pattern mirrored the migration of suckerfish, which were really catfish, in the Mississippi. So people who lived in Illinois were called suckers. Here is the Hutchinson family song, "Lincoln and Liberty Too." Hurrah for the choice of the nation, our chieftain so brave and so true. We'll go for the great Reformation, for Lincoln and liberty too. We'll go for the son of Kentucky, the hero of Hoosier and True. The pride of the suckers so lucky, for Lincoln and liberty too. They'll find what by fouling and mauling our railmaker statesmen can do. For people are everywhere calling for Lincoln and liberty too. Then up with our banner so glorious, the star-spangled red, white, and blue. We'll fight till our banner's victorious, for Lincoln and liberty too. Our David's good sling is unerring, the slave-oppressed giant he slew. So shout for freedom preferring, for Lincoln and liberty too. We'll go for the son of Kentucky, the hero of Hoosier and True. The pride of the suckers so lucky, for Lincoln and liberty too. We'll finish the temple of freedom and make it capacious within, so all who seek shelter may find it, whatever the hue of their skin. Whatever the hue of their skin, whatever the hue of their skin.
So all who seek shelter may find it, whatever the hue of their skin. Success to that old-fashioned doctrine that we are created all free, and down to the power of the despot wherever his stronghold may be. We'll go for the son of Kentucky, the hero of Hoosierdom through, the pride of the suckers so lucky for Lincoln and liberty too. In the decades following the Civil War, there was a great movement of farmers in the Midwest who were organized in organizations like the Greenback Party and the Grange and the Farmers Alliance, and they were organizing against the inequities suffered by small farmers. And of course, most farmers then were small. The railroads charged very high freight tariffs for small lots of agricultural product. Banks charged usurious interest rates on mortgages of small lots of agricultural land. Grain storage facilities charged unaffordable rates for small lots of grain. And farmers fought against these things, and they won many of their demands. They won the first federal regulation of railroad tariffs. They won regulation of the interest rates that banks could charge on agricultural land. They won free rural mail delivery. And this song came out of those movements. It was one of those songs, the trad, the public domain songs. Someone wrote this song, like those others. Someone wrote it. Someone made up a melody for it or picked a melody to set the words to. And obviously they wrote a great song because it's lasted all this time and we have no idea who it was. When Sandburg was 13, he dropped out of school and he worked for a year or so on a milk wagon, and the milkman that he worked with taught him this song. And then when he was 18, before he left home for good, he worked for several more months on that same milk wagon with the same milkman and sang the same song, "The Farmer is the Man." When the farmer comes to town with his wagon broken down, the farmer is the man who feeds them all. If you'll only look and see, well, I think that you'll agree that the farmer is the man who feeds them all. The farmer is the man, the farmer is the man, lives on credit till the fall. And they take him by the hand, and they lead him from the land, and the middleman's the one who gets it all. When the lawyer hangs around and the butcher cuts a pound, the farmer is the man who feeds them all. And the preacher and the cook go strolling by the brook, the farmer is the man who feeds them all. The farmer is the man, the farmer is the man, lives on credit till the fall. With the interest rate so high, it's a wonder he don't die, and the mortgage man's the one who gets it all. When the banker says he's broke and the merchant's up in smoke, they forget that it's the farmer feeds them all. It would put them to the test if the farmer took a rest, then they'd know that it's the farmer feeds them all. The farmer is the man, the farmer is the man, lives on credit till the fall. His pants are wearing thin, his condition it's a sin, he's forgotten that he's the man who feeds them all. The farmer is the man, the farmer is the man, lives on credit till the fall. And they take him by the hand, and they lead him from the land, and the middleman's the one who gets it all. There is a section in the Songbag of Spanish language songs, and when asked why that was so, Sandburg said, well, Mexico is in North America, just like the United States is, and he said,
There are more people in Kalamazoo, Michigan who sing La Cucaracha and Cielito Lindo in Spanish than who sing the Erie Canal or the Colorado Trail in English. So here's Cielito Lindo. It's still a widely sung song in the Mexican-American community. The chorus roughly translates to, "Sing, don't cry, my pretty little sweetheart, for singing gladdens the hearts." De la Sierra Morena, Cielito Lindo, vienen bajando un par de ojitos negros, Cielito Lindo de contrabando. De la Sierra Morena, Cielito Lindo, vienen bajando un par de ojitos negros, Cielito Lindo de contrabando. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, Cielito Lindo, los corazones. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, Cielito Lindo, los corazones. Ese lunar que tiene Cielito Lindo junto a la boca, no se lo des a nadie, Cielito Lindo, que a mí me toca. Ese lunar que tiene Cielito Lindo junto a la boca, no se lo des a nadie, Cielito Lindo, de que a mí me toca. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, Cielito Lindo, los corazones. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, Cielito Lindo, los corazones. One of the hardest working people in North American folklore is John Henry. I always thought that John Henry was just a made-up name, like so many others, for a song, just a made-up name for the song. But I think lots of historians and musicologists think that John Henry represented either a single specific individual or a composite of specific individuals. There are, I think, 3, maybe 4 towns in the South that actually have plaques in the town and say that John Henry worked there and had his battle with the steam drill there. A man named Scott Reynolds Nelson several years ago wrote a book, a good book actually, called Steel Driving Man, that documents his research, by which he is pretty sure he found the actual John Henry, a man named John Henry, who was a black man who was born free in New Jersey, and like many African Americans after the Civil War went down south to help clean up Civil War battlefields. And also, like many African Americans then and now, was arrested on trumped up trivial charges, thrown in prison. John Henry was taken out with a forced labor gang to drive steel on the Chesapeake and Ohio's Lewis Tunnel near the West Virginia border. Steel drivers drove steel spikes with sledgehammers. They drove the spikes into the ground to create cavities in which explosive could be placed. They were driven to work 12 hours a day. It was brutal. Hundreds, maybe thousands, died of malnutrition, starvation, disease. Actually, one of the diseases that killed the largest single number of steel drivers died of silicosis, which is the disease that many miners, it's a terrible disease, fatal, that miners suffer, where dust gets in your lungs and really basically corrodes your lungs. Ironically, the steel drivers were not affected by the dust that they drove up with their sledgehammers, but rather by the dust driven up by the steam drills that the railroad owners brought in because they thought they would be more effective and more productive than the human labor. They were wrong, because you can't whip and lash and drive the last ounce of blood and sweat out of a steam drill like you can out of a forced prisoner who's forced to work. And the steam drills just broke down. They weren't as efficient or as effective as the human workers. Here's the Ballad of John Henry.
When John Henry was a little baby, sitting on his mama's knee, well, he picked up a hammer and a little piece of steel, said, "Hammer's gonna be the death of me, Lord, Lord. Hammer's gonna be the death of me. Hammer's gonna be the death of me, Lord, Lord. This hammer's gonna be the death of me." Captain said to John Henry, "We're gonna bring that steam drill down. Gonna bring that steam drill down on the job. Gonna whoop that steel in the ground, Lord, Lord. Gonna whoop that steel in the ground. Gonna whoop that steel in the ground, Lord, Lord. We're gonna whoop that steel in the ground." John Henry said to the captain, "A man ain't nothing but a man. But before I let your steam drill beat me down, I'm gonna die with a hammer in my hand, Lord, Lord. Gonna die with a hammer in my hand." The captain said to John Henry, "I think this mountain's caving in." John Henry said right back to the captain, "Ain't nothing but my hammer sucking wind, Lord, Lord. Nothing but my hammer sucking wind. Ain't nothing but my hammer sucking wind, Lord, Lord. Nothing but my hammer sucking wind." The man who invented the steam drill, he thought he was mighty fine, but John Henry drove 50 feet. That steam drill only drove 9, Lord, Lord. That steam drill only drove 9. Steam drill only drove 9, Lord, Lord. That steam drill only drove 9. John Henry hammered in the mountains. His hammer was a striking fire, but he worked so hard it broke his heart, and he laid down his hammer and he died, Lord, Lord. He laid down his hammer and he died. He laid down his hammer and he lied, Lord, Lord. He laid down his hammer and he died. They took John Henry to the graveyard and they buried him in the sand. And every engine comes whistling by, whistles, "There lies a steel-driving man, Lord, Lord. There lies a steel-driving man." Whistles, "There lies a steel-driving man, Lord, Lord." Whistles, "There lies a steel-driving man." John Henry had a Henry was a steel driving man, Lord, Lord. John Henry was a steel driving man.
This next song appears in the prisons and jails section of the book. I think Sandburg associated members of the IWW, the Wobblies, the Industrial Workers of the World, with prisons and jails, because so many of them were imprisoned and jailed for organizing workers and for demonstrating and protesting and organizing in defense of freedom of speech. This is what Sandburg says in his introduction to this song. When Joe Hill, the IWW man, had the death sentence executed on him in Utah while the World War was on, his loss was mourned by the members of his organization. He was their star songwriter and is the only outstanding producer of lyrics widely sung in the militant cohorts of the labor movement of America. Jails and jungles from the Lawrence, Massachusetts woolen mills to the Wheatland, California hop fields have heard the rhymes and melodies started by Joe Hill. One of them is The Preacher and the Slave, going to the tune of Sweet By and By. Long-haired preachers come out every night, try to tell you what's wrong and what's right. But when asked about something to eat, they will answer in voices so sweet that you will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay. You'll get pie in the sky when you die. That's a lie. Oh, the Salvation Army, they play and they sing and they dance and they pray till they get all your coin on the drum. And then they'll tell you when you're on the bum that you will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay. You'll get pie in the sky when you die. That's a lie. Holy rollers and jumpers come out, and they holler, they jump and they shout. Give your money to Jesus, they say. He will cure all diseases today, and you will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay. You'll get pie in the sky when you die. That's a lie. If you fight for the good things in life, they will tell you to stop all the strife. Be a sheep for the bosses, they say, or to hell you are sure on your way. But you will eat by and by in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay. You'll get pie in the sky when you die. That's a lie. Working folk of all countries unite. Side by side we for freedom will fight. When this world and its wealth we have gained, to the grafters we'll sing this refrain, that you will eat by and by when you've learned how to cook and how to fry. Chop some wood till you're good, and you will eat in that sweet by and by. That's no lie. There are lots of humorous songs in the Songbag. Again, I think Sandburg wanted to give himself a break and a chuckle every now and then, but he didn't want the book just to be just about the hard lives and tough times of the working and farming masses in the United States. He wanted to provide a respite to that hard life. This song comes from the 1880s, and in the 1960s, a young folk singer named Noah Paul Stuckey, who was organizing a folk group with two other folk singers, got the idea from the first verse of this song to drop the Noah from his name and just use the name Paul. I was born about 10,000 years ago. There's nothing in this world that I don't know. I saw Peter, Paul, and Moses playing ring around the roses, and I'll link the guy that says it isn't so. I saw Satan when he looked the garden o'er. Saw even Adam driven from the door, and behind the bushes peeping saw the apple they were eating, and I'll swear that I'm the guy that ate their corn. I taught Solomon his little ABCs. I was the first to eat Limburger cheese, and while sailing down the bay with Methuselah one day, I saved his flowing whiskers from the breeze. Queen Elizabeth, she fell in love with me. We were married in Milwaukee secretly, but I stuck around and shook her and ran off with General Hooker to shoot mosquitoes down in Tennessee. I remember when the country had a king, saw Cleopatra pawn her wedding ring. I saw the flags a-flying when George Washington stopped lying on the night that Patty first began to sing. I saw Samson when he laid the village cold. I saw Daniel tame the lions in their hole. I helped build the Tower of Babel just as high as they were able, and there's lots of other things I haven't told, 'cause I was born about 10,000 years ago. There's nothing in this world that I don't know. I saw Peter, Paul, and Moses playing ring around the roses, and I'll link the guy that says it isn't so. I have two more songs that I'm going to do for you. I want to thank those of you who have stayed around for the whole program. I can't see you, but I can feel you there, and I appreciate your being there very much. This song, I always thought, actually Barb and I, my partner or wife, comrade, we always thought that this song was written by James Taylor, because it was on a James Taylor album that we heard it. We always associated it with him. So about 20 years ago now, when I was actually putting together this program, going through Sandburg's book, I came across this song and I thought, geez, I better check to see how James Taylor credited this song, because he obviously didn't write it. It was published in Sandburg's book in 1927. So I went back to the album, and sure enough, James Taylor did not take credit for the song. He credited it as a traditional tune. The song it does come from returning soldiers after World War I, who, like most soldiers who were returning from fighting rich men's wars, come back and really have a hard time adjusting back to society, finding a place, finding a role, finding a job. The song was actually first recorded in 1927 by Vernon Dalhart of Wreck of the Old 97 fame. It was recorded in 1955 by the very popular pop and country singer Eddie Arnold, 1975 by James Taylor, and it's been recorded by many others. My daddy is an engineer, brother drives a hack, sister takes in washing, and the baby balls the jack, and it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering.
I've been wandering early and late from New York City to the Golden Gate, and it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering. I've been working in the army, working on the farm. All I've got to show for it's the muscle in my arm, and it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering. My daddy is an engineer, brother drives a hack, sister takes in washing, and the baby ball's a jack. And it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering. I've been wandering early and late from New York City to the Golden Gate, and it looks like I'm never gonna cease wandering. I've been working in the army, working on the farm. All I've got to show for it's the muscle in my arm, and it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering. Yes, it looks like I'm never gonna cease my wandering.
I'm going to end now with a song that most people, I think, I certainly do, associate with the great folk singer and blues singer Leadbelly, whose real name is Hughie Ledbetter, was Hughie Ledbetter. But Leadbelly didn't write the song, nor was he the first to record it. It was recorded first, I think, in 1928 or so. He recorded it in 1934. It's most likely about a train that came up through Houston, through Texas, past the Sugar Land State Penitentiary on its way to Houston. Leadbelly was imprisoned in the Sugar Land State Penitentiary from 1918 to 1925. And as the train came by at night, its headlamp shone through the bars of the prison, and the prisoners seized on that light as a beacon of hope for the life of freedom that they would lead when they got out of prison. Again, thank you all for sticking around. If anybody wants to make a comment or a question right now as I do this last song, it won't distract me, I've learned. And I can maybe go through them if there's anything that needs to be commented on when I'm done with this song.
Where to get up in the morning, hear that ding-dong ding. They march you to the table, it's the same damn thing. Knife and fork on the table, but nothing in your pan. If you say a thing about it, you're in trouble with the man. Let that midnight special shine her light on me. Let that midnight special shine her ever-loving light on me. If you ever get to Houston, you better walk right. You better not stumble, and you better not fight. Sheriff Benson will arrest you. The boys will take you down. You can bet your bottom dollar you'll be Sugar Land bound. Let that midnight special shine her light on me. Let that midnight special shine her ever-loving light on me. Yonder comes Miss Rosie. How in the world did you know? I know her by her apron and the dress she wore. Umbrella on her shoulder, piece of paper in her hand. She's saying to the captain, let her loose of my man. Let that midnight special shine her light on me. Let that midnight special shine her ever-loving light on me. Yonder comes Doc Melton. How in the world did you know? He gave me a tablet just the day before. Well, there never was a doctor traveling all through the land who could cure the fever of a convict man. Let that midnight special shine her light on me. Let that midnight special shine her ever-loving light on me. Let that midnight special shine her light on me. Let that midnight special shine her ever-loving light on me.
Thank you all very much.